Well, good afternoon. It is Friday, the 28th of February. I hope this finds you well. Well, unfortunately, the news and what's going on in the markets is far from well. Off the back of coronavirus, we have seen 5 days of losses. And so my main reason for talking to you today, apart from it being a monthly update, is to discuss my thinking around the current coronavirus and the current crisis in the markets. And I'd like to start with two elements of perspective. First of all, this has come at a time when markets have recently hit all-time highs. The performance over the last 12 months has absolutely been stellar, and by many measures, the markets have been considered overvalued. If I look at what the S&P 500 has done in the US, it is now back to levels last seen in December 2019. And in Australia, we're back to levels last seen in October 2019. So we don't need to go back too far in time to see where markets have gone back to. On another point, in terms of markets and where it's hurting, it's obviously a very sudden piece of news. There is panic, and it is causing a general unwinding of positions. And I think really what we need to start to look towards is how this is a temporary event. And that really comes down to my second point, the severity of the virus. At the moment, there is a lot of information going out there in markets that is causing this panic. But at the end of the day, when I look through some of the data, I read that 80% of people have mild or no symptoms when getting the virus. The mortality rate is being reported quite high. However, given that some people or many people don't show any symptoms at all, the infection rate is likely to be wildly higher than what is reported. And from what I'm hearing is that the actual real mortality rate is going to be well below 1%. Now, considering that the seasonal flu has a mortality rate of 0.5% and worldwide deaths of over 600,000, this does need to be put into perspective and whether we're really just dealing with a bad case of flu. Now, China has reacted quite proactively in terms of trying to contain it. It hasn't been announced as a pandemic. When a pandemic is announced, the moves and the strategies move from containment to management. And I think that that is what the rest of the world will really need to start to think about. There's no way that the United States will shut down like China, neither will Europe. It needs to become management, and part and parcel of us learning to deal with such a terrible virus going around, but knowing that it is something that's with us and life and the economy will move on. Now, at the moment, that scenario is not being considered by markets. We're in the thick of the storm in terms of information. And no one wants to call this noise, particularly when lives are at stake. But we are in a case of a viral disease breaking out and viral disinformation. And it's very difficult to look through and really put things into perspective. I've included a chart with this video that shows the reaction of markets in these times when epidemics or pandemics have been declared. And it does show that market recoveries are quick and very strong. So we should try and look through and not see this as a time to be selling, but thinking about opportunities that may be ahead. Closer to home in Australia, the picture is not so good. We've been hit with the triple whammy of bushfires, floods, and now coronavirus. And we are being somewhat exposed with our dependency on China. But encouragingly, China is going back to work. They are trying to get the economy started. But it's going to be pretty tough in the next 1 or 2 quarters for Australia. And definitely I hope that the government decides to give away its surplus and provide fiscal stimulus where appropriate. It may be a negative quarter. Will it be recession? Possibly not, but it's definitely more tougher here closer to home. That's had an impact on our markets, but also the Australian dollar is very low at the moment as well. With regards to your portfolio is well balanced across many different types of assets. It hasn't been overweight equity, so it hasn't risen with the frothiness of the markets, but equally, it's not going to be seeing the same sort of volatility as what you're seeing on markets. And that's a very important consideration. It's well balanced, it's producing income, and it has liquid cash and assets on the sideline ready to take advantage of opportunities, which I think we will see very soon. So for now, while there is a lot of concern and markets are looking terrible, it's really not the time to act. It's the time to stay focused on long-term goals. Don't be drawn into the herd of panic selling, but view this as what it will ultimately be, as an opportunity when the panic subsides and ultimately the global economy moves through it. More broadly, I hope you've been well. We've off to a busy start for the year. I know I've caught up with many of you and spoken with you on the phone, and I look forward to doing that in a couple of months as we lead up to quite scarily towards the middle of the year and end of financial year. But for now, goodbye.